Hey guys, today we are going to begin Unit 7, and it's kind of Unit 6. We did a lot of two-dimensional objects. For example, this piece of paper is two-dimensional. It's flat, it's got length, and it's got width. But three-dimension adds another dimension. So this would be a three-dimensional object. So that is what this entire unit is about, is learning about these three-dimensional objects. And how you can find the outside, the area. It's called surface area, though. It's same as area, except we have a whole bunch of different sides. And then volume. Volume would be, let me get this shape right here. Volume would be like filling it up. If you filled it up, that's volume. So we're going to be learning about both of those things. And it's going to be based off of what this unit's going to be based off of what you learned last unit. So you're still going to have to be able to find the area of a square. You're still going to have to find the area of a rectangle or a triangle in order to be successful with these shapes. So with that said, let's move on. Now, if you look down at your notes, it talks about, there's a picture of a rectangular prism, which, let me see if I have it. Here we go. Here's a rectangular prism. And so rectangular prism we're going to look at all the different parts of this. So there's what's called faces, bases, edges, and vertices. Let's talk about vertices first. Vertices is like a vertex, a corner. So if you looked at this shape, I want you to just think for just a second, how many corners does it have? How many do you see on this side? How many do you see on this side? I hope you answered for what's the total now? I hope you said 8, because that's exactly what. There are 8 vertices. Now we can count the sides. We have this side, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now these sides are called either faces or bases. So bases are for a, let me back this up. This is considered a prism, and a prism has 2 bases. And so let's look at right here. I'm going to go ahead and direct you. I'm going to write on it so you can see what I'm writing on. Whoa. There we go. There's the word prisms and there's the word pyramids. Those would be the 2 basic shapes. So a prism is going to have 2 bases. Here's a base, here's a base. How do I define bases? They're 2 sides that are parallel. Now, we talked about parallel lines before when we were doing trapezoids, and I kept saying the bases are parallel. Well, with these, the bases are parallel too. Now, not to confuse you, but with a rectangular prism, you could call these 2 the bases, and that would make these 4 sides the faces. Or you could call the top and bottom the bases, and then these 4 sides would be the faces. So remember, we have bases and faces. And for the rectangular prism, it's kind of weird because you could pick different sides for bases. So we talked about the vertices, we talked about bases, we talked about faces. How about the edge? The edge is where 2 of the sides come together, 2 of the faces or bases come together. So you can see there's one here, one here, one here, one here. So there's 4. On the top, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And on this side here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12. So those are just kind of some of the questions that you might see. And let's look at the other kind of shape. That's a prism, and there's several different kinds of prisms. This is a pyramid. Pyramids have 1 base. And you can see there's none of these sides, none of them at all are parallel. These aren't parallel, these aren't parallel, these aren't parallel. There's nothing parallel. Just 1 base. So this one's a little bit easier deciding about bases and faces because there's only 1 base. And then we have the faces here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a pyramid, but not only is it a pyramid, but it's a square pyramid. Okay, so let's look at vertices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's look at the edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down here, 5, 6, 7, 8. So vertices, edges, bases, faces, prism, and pyramid and prism. Okay, 2 bases, 1 base. I'm going to say it again. Prisms have 1 base. Oh my gosh. Pyramids have 1 base. Prisms have 2 bases. All right, if I didn't just totally mess you up on that, but we're going to write some stuff down. Hopefully that'll be helpful. So again, you can see where I circled. It says prisms and have 2 bases. And then it also says for the prisms, and it's also true for the pyramids, that the shape of the base names it. So if this is a square base, this is a square pyramid. If this has say a rectangular base, if this is my base, I'd call it a rectangular prism. All right, so now let's answer some questions. 1, 2, 3 on the bottom of your worksheet. Pencil in hand, let's go. So if I look again at that pyramid, it's a pyramid, so how many bases? 1. The shape of the base, we just said it a little while ago, it's a square. Okay, lateral faces. Okay, that's the base. So what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4. Whoops, 4 right here. And the proper name for this is a square. Let me erase this right here. Is a square pyramid. Awesome. All right, let's look at this next shape. This is called, it's not a pyramid. I'm going to tell you, kids mess this up all the time. This is not a pyramid. This is a prism because look, there's 2 parallel bases. All right, there they are. So these sides aren't parallel. These sides aren't parallel. These are the only sides. All right, and that is the shape of a triangle. So the number of bases on this is going to be 2. The shape of the base is a triangle, filling in the second part. Number of lateral faces. Okay, these are the bases where my hands are. So the faces are 1, 2, 3. And the proper shape for this is a triangular prism. Now, I almost forgot to do something, and so we're going to do this really quick. We're going to shade the bases. And I already told you that there were 2 of them and that they were triangles. So here's one of them. I'm going to shade it in. I want you to do the same. And then here's the other one. Now on the first shape, because I forgot to do it on the first shape, it's a pyramid, and we said that the base was this square. So I'm going to shade in that. Here we go. All right. Now this next shape. Remember, okay, here's a shape. I'm going to flatten the shape out, literally. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to pull it out of this box, and I'm going to flatten it out like I squished it. Suddenly, you can see all the sides flattened out. This is called a net, and you're going to be doing a lot with nets and finding area. So we're going to look at this net, and we're going to say, what are the number of bases? Now, again, if I close it back up, this is a prism. There's 2 bases. They're parallel, so I know this is a prism. So number of bases, 2. Let's write that in. And I'm going to go ahead and shade in 2 of these. We'll talk a little bit more about it on one of the other lessons, but they're going to have to be 1 apart. If I open this up, these bases have to have 1 in the middle. You can't have 2 of them side by side. I can't say these 2 are the bases because there's no way they could ever be parallel. There's got to be something in the middle to make these parallel. Okay, the shape of this base, well, look, these are all squares. This is actually called a cube. And so we're going to write cube. You guys think more like a dice. You know, a dice, like a cube, or maybe a Rubik's Cube. All right. We could also call this a rectangular prism. We could. We could still call it that also. If that's what you were wanting to call it. Okay, you would not be wrong. Okay, so if there's two bases, then there's going to be four faces because we all know that a dice has six sides. So if two of them are bases, then four of them are faces. Oh, and I just saw a mistake. All right, so we're going to move forward. It says proper name of this 3D figure is a cube. And up here, I made a mistake. I wrote cube up there. I should have written for my base the word square. All right. The assignment goes right off of this. Please ask if you have any questions. Good luck. You're going to be amazing. Bye-bye.